Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
You are a great guy, Joe KARP. I love the article that you wrote, When Older Couples Do Not Want to Tie the Knot. And is that there are a lot of older couples who are together and they don't want to be married.
Oh, absolutely. And you know who else doesn't want them to be married?
Who?
Their children.
Oh, right.
Because these marriages, and the older they get and the shorter the probable duration, create potential complications. So many of my clients who have decided since they're 72, 87, 91, that they're not going to raise a family together. And they have moved up with the times that marriage is not a necessity for them to share their lives together and live together. They've come to terms with a lot of other changes for other people, so they adore their granddaughter who is gay and married to another woman. They love their son who is gay and with another man. They love their grandchild who ended up transgender. They've learned to accept that there's a new world and they can share in it and not be outside of it. They've learned that, probably all of their grandchildren have lived with somebody before they got married. And the old expression, it's a shanda, is no longer true. That, life changes and it's not immoral. Our mores have changed. And they're doing that because it's much simpler, it's less, because life is more complicated.
Well,
and they do that.
Okay, let me just add to this. And I know after reading your article that there are a lot of reasons why, health-wise, financially-wise, but let me ask you a question. What about romance? If someone, marriage is an interesting thing. So if you're just with someone, but you're not married, do you not feel that having that marriage, the bond, no matter what age you are, is not important? I mean, there are older people who
older people who absolutely want it, that is the nature of the commitment that we are making.
Right.
And that absolutely, there are people who believe that is under their religion, it's totally appropriate, but also that is the nature of the commitment. I want to make a permanent legal commitment. On the other hand, since 50% of all marriages end up in divorce, all it is a permanent legal commitment until you want to break the commitment. So some people absolutely want it, absolutely need it. It makes the whole difference psychologically. I get it. There's no value judgment here. What there is a reality. And the value judgment is if it works for you, that's fine, whether it be marriage or not marriage. So that's absolutely fine. But when we talk about the unmarried couples living together, and we're talking about seniors, they face a whole bunch of other serious issues to address that the younger people are far more able to deal with. If a younger couple is living together, for the most part, they can sort of figure out the logistics as what's going to happen if we're going to split. Sometimes they've not commingled money, but they have the same problems if they're together in a non-marriage for 32 years, and then they decide to split. They have problems that married couples have. But seniors who are getting married in their later years, frequently a second marriage for both, with their children on both sides of the family, with different economic needs, with different economics, They sometimes decide that there's no reason we should not be living together because of the marriage thing. Let's live together anyway. And I'm sure many of our listeners have many friends who are living that way, comfortably, as if they were a married couple to everything but legally.
The one thing I find, though, Joe, too, is some of them who are together, they keep their homes, each separately. Sometimes they spend more time in one of the homes because I guess that's their financial security.
Yes, but it's also a bit of a liability, and frequently, maybe not initially, not let's try, all of a sudden they're seeing each other. And I have clients who have their own separate homes, but those are people who have greater financial ability equally. So they I have a client who lives in Jupiter, and his significant other is in Boca, and I think they go up to Jupiter like every 2 weeks. They go up there for a weekend because they socialize with his friends. But that's a luxury that many couples don't have. Sometimes they end up, the one moves in with the other, and if there's a second home, sometimes the owner of the primary whose house is being vacated ends up renting his or her home so that they sort of have that as a safety net. What happens if? And sometimes even that safety net's inadequate, because if you were signing a lease on a condo and you found out you were getting it from Mrs. So-and-so who's living with her significant other, and she says, but just in case he throws me out, I'm not giving you a lease. You're a month-to-month tenant.
Oh, my God.
And you say, if I was coming down as a snowbird, I'll sign a 3 or 4 month lease, but if I'm moving in here, Mrs. So-and-so, I want to sign a lease. I want to know that I'm protected. I'm going to want to know that if you and your boyfriend have a fight, you're not going to send me a 15-day notice to vacate. He'd never throw me out. Well, then give me a lease. Well, you never know. So there's a trade-off, and one has to understand that. So and I'll address what I addressed in the column. What happens if one of you moves into the other home?
Right.
And they generally, after a period of time, sometimes they already know. If you die, I'm going to move out, and I'm going to go back to my other place, or I'm moving back to New Jersey near my daughter because I don't want to be alone. So that's a possibility that occurs, and that's something that they have to deal with. But frequently it's, I'm going to keep my place and I'm going to go back to my place. But I can't really afford to sustain my place because it's expensive, etc., and I'm going to rent it out. Or I'm going to sell my place and take the money. And can you imagine if you moved out of your home or your condo, which is still your home, 5 years ago to move in with your significant other? And by the way, I see no gender basis as to whose home they move into. Sometimes it's the guy's home, sometimes it's the woman's home. It really depends what place is most comfortable and appropriate for them. Sometimes, so that's a separate issue, and I don't want to get into how they decide that because there's a million factors. But she said, I'm going to sell my place. So if you sold your condo 5 years ago, and now today your significant other dies, that money is not going to buy that same condo. The market has risen dramatically.
Yep.
that can be scary, right? So, I'll be fine. I'm going to sell my condo. I'm going to get $180,000, and I'm not going to be risky. I'm not putting it in the market. I'm going to put it in a CD where I'll get 1%. I found a good bank, and I'll put it in the CD at the bank for 1%, and that condo today is $280,000. And he dies, and she says, well, with my full $180 a year interest on the last 5 years, I'm up to $181. And all of a sudden, or $185, she's hurting. So they make these decisions, and so sometimes after a period of time, or sometimes even initially, the person who has the condo that the other one's moving into, and I'll make it the man is moving into the woman's just to tell the story, although it's generally the women who have greater fear because they are generally far more sensible in affairs of heart and money than men. I can say that as a man. They are practical. They are the people who have budgeted our families to make sure that our kids had new shoes every September going to school. So the woman says, well, what if you die? And they go to the lawyer, or they talk to a friend. They say, if I die, I'll put in my trust that you can live there for the rest of your life. Right?
Okay, yeah, so?
Okay. And then there are a couple of problems. Let me talk to you about the problems.
Wait, before you do this, because I don't want to run out of time on your seminars. What I want to tell everybody, you see the kind of talk that we're getting now? These are things you have no idea about, but you can go to hear Joe. This is only going to be half an hour. You can go and hear Joe for 3 hours, and it's free. Let me tell you where you're going to go. Please. Wednesday, July the 18th, from 1:30 to 4 in Port St. Lucie. It's a great place up there, by the way. You want to go there anyway, just to see what it's like. And then you can go. That's the Port St. Lucie Holiday Inn. But Wednesday, July 25th, from 1:30 to 4, Courtyard by Marriott in Boynton Beach. And Thursday, July the 26th, from 1:30 to 4, Palm Beach Gardens, Marriott. He was very careful not to have anything on Tuesday, since that's when our Boomer Expo is.
I would not do something on Tuesday, because
right.
For those of you who have not been to the Boomer Expo at Seminole Casino Coconut Creek, you can see and have your Silver Dollar Expo 20th anniversary. And
oh, you're good. But what you don't know, and I'm telling you, is we now have hired 3 very sexy men who are going to be there from 3:15 to 3:45, and they're going to entertain. So that's something new we've just done. That's our grand finale. Anyway, let's get back to you.
Well, I wasn't going to tell anybody that I was going to be there at 3:15, and now you've told the world. Okay, well,
Well, let Debbie come. She'd enjoy this. But anyway, I want to go back to this. This is a free, wonderful 3-hour...
2.5.
2.5, well, okay.
And we do give you a break to empty and void your bladder.
Okay, but I have to tell you, Joe's been doing this for 20 years or more, and they're so great. Just like what you're hearing him talk about now, these little tidbits you would not understand or know, please do go to them. And let me just tell you, it's free. If you want more information, you can go to their website, which is karplaw.com, KARPLAW.com, or if you want to call their office for something important, it's 1-800-893-9911. Okay, I want you to continue. This is a very interesting conversation.
And what we tell people at those workshops, we talk about long-term care and estate planning, etc. And what we do, if you show up and you want to make an appointment, you'll get a free consultation. If we believe we can help you, we'll schedule you for one. What we try to do is everybody knows the obvious. We try to tell them oh my God, I never thought about that, and clarifying issues and things that they didn't know or understand. And the key to it is, I'm telling this story is, ignorance is not bliss.
Right.
knowing what problems could occur and anticipating and them dealing with them is the most important thing you can do. So the guy the lady says, I'll give you a life estate in my house. And so that you can sell your house and keep your money and not worry, and you can move in with me, and that way, you know, you can help share some expenses. We can afford a little bit of a better life. We can take a trip. You said you can't travel because you're on a limited budget. Well, you'll have your house money, and you'll be able to go. We can go on a cruise or two once every 6 months, and we can go out to dinner with our friends. Because if you sell your house, you'll have money, and you'll be okay. Because you can live in my house the rest of my life, and all you'll have to pay is the basic things you would have paid in yours: the HOA fees, the utilities, the taxes, and the insurance. And after you die, my kids will get the house. They can wait. Don't worry. They're doing okay. They'll get the rest of my money. And that sounds like, what a deal. What a perfect deal. And let's start with, let us assume the relationship is ideal and they're never going to break up. Because you understand, they could break up.
Yeah, of course. Of course they could break up, right.
They could break up. Two, she could amend her trust after she did that, and you say, well, wouldn't that be some sort of breach of contract? Yeah, all of you want to run into lawsuits against your 89-year-old girlfriend.
Right, that's true.
That's not going to happen because the legal fees will make you eat the rest of your money away. But she can. But let us assume it goes perfectly in terms of your relationship. Let's just assume that for a minute. But she can change it. Know what nobody seems to address?
What?
And we do, because we do elder law. In elder law, we deal with both death and dying and estate planning for that. But we deal with incapacity. What if she becomes incapacitated? Number one, suppose she's not going to live there anymore. She has to move into assisted living. Or her daughter says, Mom, you're coming up with me. I got to take care of you.
Oh, yeah, right. Can I bring my boyfriend?
No, it's not even an issue. The boyfriend may not want to go. But even if, there's no room at the inn. But the daughter says, Mom, we're moving you up. So now where does the boyfriend go? Number one. Number two, the daughter says, even if says, I feel terrible to the guy. I feel terrible. But I'm the trustee of my mother's trust now, and I got to sell that place because we need the money to take care of my mother. He said, but she said I could live there the rest of my life.
Oh, I see.
And she says, I understand, but that is if she was living there. But I'm moving her to my house. She doesn't have long-term insurance.
Yeah.
I'm going to hire an attendant because I work. I'm going to part-time her, but the lady is going to cost us $200 a day for the 10 hours she's there while I'm at work. I need that money for my mother.
But I'll take care of her, he says. I'll take care of her.
And he says, you can't take care of her. You know that you can't. You can't drive. You can't hear well enough. And she named me to be in charge of her medical decisions. So those types of things have to be ironed out, addressed. I mean, when people come in, every time somebody comes in and says, this is what I want to do, and they want to let their significant other live in the place for the rest, boom. We talk about it, and then I also say, and the other thing you have to understand if you're going into this arrangement is think about the practicality. The right to live in that place means the rest of your life, but now, assuming everything goes swimmingly and you're the one who survives, you're now a prisoner to that place. Because the day you want to move out, you ain't got a place to live. So with some of our clients, we even put in, if my significant other doesn't want to stay there, the significant other can direct the trustee to buy a piece of real property owned by the trust, or a condo or a co-op.
Good.
And of equal or lesser value, and if there's any extra money, they can just keep it, let that go to my family, and the life estate will continue for my significant other. So there's lots of issues, and we put in, if I am disabled, my significant other can stay in the premises as long as they pay all the costs of maintaining it. And all of a sudden, when you start raising those issues, sometimes people realize that, Joe's right. If I end up sick and I end up in New Jersey with my daughter, I may need that money.
Joe, wait a minute. I got to stop you for 1 minute. It's so amazing. I love to have you on our radio show, the way you do this. I want to explain this to people. You see, Joe is not just the elder law attorney that works on his computer and puts all these documents together. He thinks in advance. That's what makes him such an excellent attorney. He foresees these things that could happen, and he builds into the documents what ifs. He's so good at what ifs, Joe. You really are.
Thank you. And I had a real nice compliment paid to me. Yesterday I went to lunch with probate litigation lawyers and Adele Harris and my son John, who are attorneys in the office. And the one lawyer was talking about a mediation in a guardianship that he had that fell through. They could not settle it, and it was the guardianship of a senior, the fight between the kids, etc. And I sat there strangely and uncommonly quiet, and Adele turned to the other lawyer and said, "You should have used Joe as the mediator." And he looked up and he said, "You're a mediator?" She said, "Yeah, I've been board certified by the Florida Bar Supreme Court to be a mediator for the past 4 years." She said confidently, and I can't be, you can't promise results. She said, "Joe understands these situations and comes up with creative solutions all the time that people are comfortable with." She said, "When we're drafting estate plans, because of his analysis and anticipation and creativity, the paralegals hate it because it's not just push a button, everything to the 3 kids,
Exactly.
Goodbye. Yeah. The paralegals have to do some real work, and the lawyers who review documents have to review the crafting." But she said, "I bet he would have settled that case. I bet he would have settled that case because he's got it. He understands it." So I do bring that to the table. I bring a sense of let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Let's resolve it. Now, if you have somebody, I just testified 2 weeks ago in a case that I had nothing to do with, other than I was brought in as an expert witness on what happened when somebody signed their trust amendment and what the trustees, the 2 sons, did after the mother died and what their behavior was. And I said to the lawyer who called me, I said, you're going to lose on that. I would concede it. Don't fight that. You're going to lose credibility with the court. You're absolutely going to lose on that. There is no factual way you can do it. Drop it. Now, these are legitimate points that should be argued. Your facts fly. Absolutely, you're going to win on them. And strategically, this is the way in which you should play it. And these guys are going to get spanked so bad they won't know what happened. And I testified a week ago Thursday, and you never know what a judge is going to do, even though you know what you believe a judge should do, because judges are people and they are fallible and they have their own stuff. And the decision came out yesterday afternoon, and I was so frighteningly on spot and the judge did some other stuff the judge fired the trustees and is going to hire a professional trustee. And these guys who could have settled much cheaper on the other side, the defendants, are just going to learn a lesson that they did their deceased brother's kids wrong. But I can smell the stuff, and I attribute that really to my mother, who was loaded with common sense. My father was into intellectual pursuits. My mother was just street smart. Mm-hmm. So I got the gift from both of them. I got my father's intellectual curiosity and my mother's well-grounded logic.
Well, you are all those things, and I just have to share something with everyone, and I don't give out names, but I had a friend whose husband passed away, and the sons, whom he had, her husband's sons, had not really been much in contact. But somehow, out of nowhere, they appeared, wanted the money. And so I went to Joe thinking, okay, Joe, what should she do? And he said, I'm not a litigator. That's what she's going to need. He referred us to her to a fabulous law firm that does this, elder law, and they're doing really great things for her. So you have to go to someone you trust. I trust Joe, and I know if he refers someone, it's going to be the right thing. So I'd have to give you his phone number again. I just must. It's 1-800-893-9911. I just referred another person, Joe, and I'm sure they're going to ask for you. As a matter of fact, I think it was almost my son. I forget now. Yeah, it was my son. So it looks like we have only a few minutes. But I told him there was a litigation that was necessary. I said, well, talk to Joe anyway, and he'll find you someone. So you do have a great reputation. You write great articles.
And let me share the credit. At this point, everybody in my office, the attorneys, are mentored by me, work with me, trained with me, and I have oversight over their stuff. So I'm seeing less and less people, but I'm seeing every matter. My son, John, who's practicing law, he's going on finishing his second year, has been blessed or cursed with my thought processes his whole life. And I was saying to my wife, Debbie, last night, we were driving, and I said, I am just in awe of his intellect, his reasoning, and his speech.
Good.
Adele Harris has been with me 13 years. So I have two other lawyers.
And we're out of time, Joe. I know you want to tell everybody how wonderful everyone else is. I want to tell everyone how wonderful you are. Thank you, Joe.
The KARP law firm is wonderful.
Go to the center. Go to his law firm and read his article. Thanks, Joe, so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.